What's up, everybody, and welcome to Assemble. I am your host, Matt, joining you live here on youtube.com/assemble show, and we are live talking about all of the WWE releases that have just come through today. It is not a good day, and there are a lot of releases here on this list. WWE is going through another cleaning house. They just went through their quarterly earnings, and yeah, with that, they have gone ahead and done another batch of releases like we have seen in the previous months. A lot of big names have been released. A lot of shocking names for me from where I'm sitting. If you guys enjoy the show, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Become channel members, or just hit the thumbs up if you want to, and join us here live pretty much every single day for live WWE, AEW news coverage, whatever we got going on. And we cover WWE 2K22 to its fullest. Thank you all so much for all being here, crushing the chat right now, and being live and choosing to join us here. We have an awesome community, awesome people joining us pretty much every single day. We will take all of your questions as best we can. Let's get in to the full rundown, and we're going to kick things off before we get into the full list. I know so many of you have already looked at it. Before we get through all of the names and give us our thoughts, let's take a look first here at just the reason behind the releases. This comes from Sanchez Taylor over at Wrestle Talk. WWE's reason for the latest releases has been revealed. Here's the reason WWE's reportedly told talent for the recent batch of talent releases. They are the reason for the departure is in the email. Before reports today, releases emerged, WWE announced their fiscal results for the third quarter of 2021, and the company revealed that a total revenue for the quarter was $255.8 million, with WWE pointing to higher ticket sales and, to a lesser extent, venue merchandise sales as reasons for the increase of 15%. That is a huge increase of revenue, or $34.2 million as it's being reported, compared to last year's Q3 earnings. They have the full list and the full details there for you guys. But the reason for it, according to Sean Ross Sapp over at Fightful, John Laurinaitis cited in the email to the talent that it's budget cuts as the reason for the departure in an email. So we know that it's almost a meme at this point, isn't it? That it's Johnny Ace coming out and saying, "Sorry, kid, it's budget cuts. It's not a personal thing. Best of luck in your future endeavors." But it's pretty sad that so many stars have been released by WWE. It feels like now they just go through a quarterly shuffle and reshuffling of talent. They look at who they're using, who they're not using, and you know, they go ahead and they take away a lot of the names. It's very brutal here, but let's go and break down all of the stars that we are aware of as of right now that we are doing this. If you guys see that there is trying to stay on top of it all, but if WWE releases any more names, let me know in the chat. But we'll keep an eye on things. But as of right now, according to first reported by Sean Ross Sapp over at Fightful, we have the full list of names. So here we go. Scarlet Bordeaux has been released. Frankie Monet, Ember Moon, Trey Baxter, Karrion Kross, Oni Lorcan, B-Fab, who just got on SmackDown, Jesse Camilla, Zeta Ramier, Grand Metalik, Lindsay Dorado, Jeet Rama, Katrina Cortez, Nia Jax, Keith Lee, Harry Smith, Mia Yim, and Eva Marie have all been released by WWE. We're not going to go in deep dive every single name here, guys. Let me know in the chat who you are most surprised by, and let me know in the comments as well, who are you most surprised by that WWE would release? Let me know, guys, as we're live. Let me know who stands out to you as somebody that you are most kind of just shocked by right off the bat. I really can't believe that they let so much great talent gone. The ones that stick out to me, let's start with some I think that a lot of you are citing as well right now, is Keith Lee. Keith Lee came up through NXT right towards the tail end, right, of NXT's kind of final boom there. Adam Cole, baby, boom. But Keith Lee came up through there, went to main roster, and he was start and stop so many times, it felt like, where they just never used him. They never even really tried to use him effectively, or what he's good at. Then he was off TV. We read the reports as to why he was off for so long, whereas Keith Lee himself actually reported that I believe it was due to health reasons, personal reasons, that he was off TV for such a long time. And then as he was coming back, he got rebranded as Keith Bearcatlee. And then I think he just got to Bearcatlee. And they never used him. They rebranded him and then they just never put him back on TV. It was really sad that Keith Lee never got any opportunity to really showcase. And I say that about Keith Lee, but I think there's a case to make for everybody, top to bottom, that has been released by WWE here today. So Keith Lee, as one of the biggest names that I think out of this list, arguably, that stands out the most to a lot of us, to me as well. Really sad that he was let go and never given the opportunity to really shine on main roster, because there was so much you could have done with Keith Lee. I was excited to actually see what they would do with Bearcatlee and actually put him in more of a heel role. It just not used properly. It wasn't used effectively. So I'm really surprised that they would let him go. Before we get into more, and we'll talk a little bit more about other stars that kind of stand out to all of us, I can't believe that that another promotion right now would not be sitting here rubbing their hands together going, how quickly can I pick up Keith Lee? And how quickly can I grab him, amongst others, to fill out my roster? Because Keith Lee is main event material. He's money wherever he goes. So I hope that Keith Lee gets snagged by somebody really, really fast, because he has an incredible ceiling. That you could have him as an amazing babyface. You could have him as a top heel. He's fast. He's good on the promo. He's unique. And I'm just shocked that WWE is like, we want bigger, physically larger superstars. You have a big man in Keith Lee, who you could have put up on SmackDown and fought Roman Reigns for 3 months. And you never wanted to even bother to do something like that. It absolutely boggles my mind. I really can't believe that they were just going to let him go amongst other stars. Let's continue talking about other stars that had been released here. Scarlet Bordeaux and the husband, Karrion Kross. Now, gotta admit, not a fan of Karrion Kross. His character in NXT at the end there, and certainly how he was used on main roster. Never buried, I'm sorry, but not utilized correctly from the start. Buried's always the harsh word, because he didn't do anything wrong. And WWE's lack of utilization of Karrion Kross. And I think for a lot of us, we've read the dirt sheets, we read the rumors on the internet and the conversations around Karrion Kross when he was coming up to main roster, that it sounded like it was almost a weird punishment thing of Vince scooping him up, put him on main roster, take him away from Hunter, put the NXT champion on TV, and have him lose and basically get squashed to make NXT look bad. And then we moved on to, NXT 2.0 because that's a dream factory, right? We got a Steiner, at least. That's kind of funny. But they never utilized Scarlet. I didn't understand this move at all by WWE. Their inability to pull the trigger on Scarlet, to have her work with Karrion Kross. She is so much of his identity in what they were doing in NXT that, to me, it didn't make any sense why you didn't do that. You completely took Karrion Kross's gimmick. What actually worked for him in NXT was the pomp and circumstance, the theatrics of it all. His entrance was so much of this, and Scarlet was so much of his identity in NXT that we didn't get any of that. And then he became a Viking guy or whatever in main roster with some strappy suspenders, some red licorice suspenders, and ended up on main event after, what was it, a month of being on main roster. And they destroyed his entrance, and they destroyed his character, and the way they shot him too when he was on main roster for his entrance, as stripped down as it was, you're like, okay, can he make it work? They didn't do him any favors. They just would shoot the angles so that he didn't look larger than life. They didn't invest anything into him, it felt like. And then they have him lose in like 30 seconds. It was really rough. Scarlet, I mean, you're not surprised necessarily, but you're just kind of like, you never used this package that you had of a team. And you think for Vince, he sees somebody like Scarlet, he doesn't think that there's money there. He doesn't think that he could utilize her. It's kind of wild. So Karrion Kross, what do you guys think about Karrion Kross and Scarlet being released by WWE? Where do you think right now that Karrion Kross and Scarlet could go as an act? To me, I think that they would be best suited in a place like Impact. I think based on their character and their package together, to me, it just feels like Impact. And I think that they would do quite well over there. Maybe in a rebooted Ring of Honor. Never know. But maybe not. But yeah. Karrion Kross not utilized like at all on main roster. And lost to Jeff Hardy. Tons of roll-ups. Just not utilized effectively. It was kind of nuts. Thank you guys so much for being here, by the way, sincerely. I really wanted to be able to come on here and do a stream with everybody and do the show live. Matt's very tired after, not that anyone should care, but I'm just tired from a very long day. Tons of contents from the Xbox show that we do every day, as well as doing WWE news here. And 2K coverage. And then I thought all these releases came through and I was like, man, you know what? I bet that a bunch of you want to chit chat about this. People on Twitter were messaging me. So I thought, you know what? Let's hang out together and let's discuss. So I'm glad that we pull it off because it's important to be able to cover all the news whenever stuff like this happens. The other talent that I wanted to discuss was going to be Ember Moon. Main NXT champion, brought up to main roster, had a decent run on main, but just never really given a fair shake at what she can truly do. Like it writes here in Wrestle Talk, it just says that, Ember Moon had been with the WWE since 2015, and as a member of the NXT roster where she won the vacant NXT Women's Championship at NXT TakeOver War Games, guys, War Games, on November 18th, 2017, in a four-way against Peyton Royce, Nikki Cross, and Kairi Sane. She resigned, or excuse me, I'm tired. She reigned with the title for 139 days before dropping it to Shayna Baszler at TakeOver New Orleans. Her last match was a loss to Mandy Rose, and she then obviously went over and went to main roster, and then she had a ton of injuries, and then obviously went back to NXT and had more fun, I think, in NXT, and was given, good stage to be able to work on. She went over and was working with the NXT tag division, the women's tag division, and her last match was a loss to Mandy Rose on NXT 2.0 on October 5th. So Ember Moon, if you're Tony Khan, grab her as quickly as you possibly can. I believe as well that, and I have to double check in a little bit, but I believe that a lot of these talents have only a 30-day non-compete clause. in their agreement with these releases. So what's exciting here, guys, is that we could potentially see somebody like Ember Moon show up in a month and a half, 2 months with somebody like AEW or even Impact. For me, I want Ember Moon over on AEW, and I don't want it to be the cliche thing, you know, because it's so easy to say, well, they're all just going to go to AEW or Tony Khan's going to hire all of them. That's not necessarily true, right? But I think Ember Moon is an incredible talent that can be showcased and elevate that women's roster again to another level, being able to fill out that heavyweight women's division, the top of the card, where you can have Ember Moon versus Britt Baker, Ruby Soho. That stuff, that's what I want to see. I want to see more of that. I think that it would be great, and I think it's silly if any promoters, like, I'm not looking right at Ember Moon as somebody that I want to be able to grab. Now, one that I was actually kind of surprised by, to be honest, Nia Jax. WWE released Nia Jax from her contract. Former Raw Women's Champion Nia Jax was among the names that was released today. Nia Jax signed in 2014 as a member of the NXT roster and was called up to the main roster in July of 2016. She was in NXT for a very short amount of time, if you remember, and almost was one of those kind of head-scratching call-ups. I remember when she was called up to main roster. Her only singles title win came when she won the Raw Championship from Alexa Bliss at WrestleMania 34. She also had 2 reigns with the women's tag titles with Shayna, and her last match was actually against Shayna Baszler, September 20th episode of Raw, where Baszler won. Nia Jax, what do you guys think? Why Nia? What do you think is the reason behind, other than just the John Laurinaitis budget cut? Very odd that you would take a giant talent like that. And again, it's interesting that you have a talent like Nia Jax where she's done a ton within WWE. She needed something newer with her character. I always felt like she needed something to be changed, maybe healed up differently, where she was more aggressive. I thought that you could easily have turned her into Mark Henry type of character, when Mark Henry really changed his character in the, you know, whatever, the mid 2000s, 2011, I want to say, where he just became this absolute beast and dominant champion, world champion. I wanted to see that from Nia Jax. And what always, not from WWE failing, I always hated her entrance music. She would be like this big nasty monster heel, and then she's got this poppy, cartoony entrance theme. It always drove Matt nuts, but that doesn't actually matter. It's just sad that she would not get the opportunity to change anything, because again, I think like some of you have mentioned in the chat here, seeing Nia Jax like get like super dominant heel on SmackDown and join the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns and join the Bloodline. Come on, that writes itself. Have her in there as the muscle for Roman. You know, there's always conversations about like, oh, who could they bring in within the Bloodline to really like fill it out and do all of that. Like, put in Nia Jax in there as a devastating heel, and you've got more money. I can't believe like so many of these releases, everybody. It's pretty wild what they did. Next up, Eva Marie. Next up. No, I'm kidding. We'll go back. We'll talk about it for a minute. Eva Marie has been released by WWE. 2013 Diva Search contestant winner, Eva Marie was one of the several names within WWE released from the company on November 4th. After a stint with the company from 2013 to 2017, Eva Marie signed a deal to return in 2020 and then eventually reemerged in May of 2021. You all remember this because it happened. Marie's 2021 Raw saw her paired with Doudrop, formerly Piper Niven. I'm glad Piper Niven is not released, by the way, because she's a good talent. They did the whole Piper Niven Doudrop angle, all of that. 2 matches. The article reads, 2 matches between them took place in the weeks that followed, with Doudrop scoring easy wins on both of them. Yeah, because Eva Marie does not wrestle. And Marie was written off TV when Shayna Baszler attacked her, which I was happy with. I thought that was great because we got Shayna to be healed up, MMA fighter. We got some action in here. It was good. And then she wasn't assigned to a brand when the draft happened, and I was actually surprised by that, amongst with other stars that didn't get drafted. And then she sat in limbo, like she didn't get drafted anywhere. And then we waited until after, and she wasn't put anywhere, not shown on TV, nothing. So I wonder if the writing was kind of on the wall with this. They weren't going to get any more value out of Eva Marie with her character. To be honest, like, we know that characters like Eva Marie, they tried this before. I actually did like her last run at the very end before she left, where she was all red everything, and the whole story arc, while it's limited, I like the fact that the whole gimmick was, how was she going to get out of doing an actual match? And they kind of did it here, right, with Doudrop, but then they quickly just moved away from it. And I think Vince is very high on Piper Niven as a talent. So I'm not surprised that Eva Marie is gone. Probably see her show up again in 3 years. You never know. But really, not a ton, to be honest, because of what we've seen her, even with her work from main NXT when she was in there, back to main, coming back again. Not a ton of improvement there from an in-ring perspective. But yeah. Kind of wild that they just released so many names. Let's pause for a second, guys, and let's see what's happening in the chat. You guys are busy tonight because we've got a ton to talk about, but thank you all so much for being here. There are so many of you guys hanging out with us, and I can't believe it. I sincerely appreciate you joining us here and choosing to hang out together, talk about the latest news in WWE. If you guys are new to the channel, thank you so much for being here. If you are longtime viewers and subscribers, I sincerely appreciate it. But if you guys are here for the first time, yeah, we cover WWE news. We do AEW as well. We do a ton of WWE 2K22 over here on the channel. So if you guys can, if you feel like it, help Matt out. We're reaching that goal of 1,000. That's not true at all. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers on the channel. So if you can, hit that little free button, hit subscribe. It really helps us out. It allows us to grow further and further, and even giving this show a thumbs up. We sincerely appreciate it. So let's talk a little bit more about the releases that we have within WWE. I am going to pause for a second and see how you guys are doing and what we're talking about here, but just tons of conversation regarding these. Luke in the chat, I can't believe they released BFAB. Yeah, I know. You just brought up Hit Row debuted them a week ago. They've had a backstage segment and a tag match. They must be doing something with that, with Hit Row. Yeah, I'm surprised they would just break up that act instantly. But at the same time, if you know that you're going to break them up, if you see some of the talent in there that you want to utilize, and she's not one of them, better to do it now, when they haven't been a formal act on TV to get established. But it's still not good, you know? There's no real good answer there. I hope Hit Row is not Joseph Dunn. Yeah, I hope Hit Row, though, is not released next. That would be really terrible. Let's take a look then, guys, at just some of the other names coming out of it. I'm just taking a look at Fightful.com just to see what else we have going on. Jeet Rama was released by WWE. Mia Yim released alongside Keith Lee, which is terrible. Yeah, BFAB was released. Keith Lee being released is crazy. When we got, Lindsay Dorado, as well as Grand Metalik. Grand Metalik had been in the news in the last, I want to say, month or two, where there was conversation around, superstars wanting to be able to get out of their contracts. Grand Metalik being one of them, who seemed to be outspoken about wanting to be released. I hope that for them, for those luchadors, that they can go somewhere else and actually show what they are capable of doing. Grand Metalik is incredible. Lindsay Dorado is incredible in the ring. Let's get them in a company where they can actually show what they can do. I think that they're a terrific act. Let's put them into something that's actually decent. The other one on the list, Oni Lorcan. Kind of like a OG NXT, eh? But Oni Lorcan being released by WWE, that really bums me out. Oni Lorcan he's had great matches in NXT. And NXT alumni, you could have used him in NXT 2.0 to help these Braun Breakers and all these other guys and get them over. He's such a useful superstar to have. If not in the ring, then backstage or help at NXT or something. Maybe that was offered, maybe it wasn't. But I think it's just really bummer that, Oni Lorcan is out. So many stars here that are gone and we're not going to be able to see. Frankie Monet as well is one of them. Just huge names and really a bummer. The other piece of news and just some of the stuff that we're looking at here is just the wrestling world reacts to the recent WWE releases. So going through just some of the highlights that are from Wrestle Talk regarding these releases. Just something's got to give. Things need to change. It's unhealthy. It's toxic. It's soul snatching. Embarrassing. I wish WCW would have won. Renee Paquette chimes in. Seriously, that's a list of stars. They'll be just fine wherever they land. I love Renee. Speaking of Renee, though, Jon Moxley entering rehab. Good for him. Hope he gets better, thrives, does even better when he comes back. Incredible talent, not used properly by WWE. And showed what could happen when you do leave the company, you do leave the giant machine. And look what happened to Jon Moxley going over and dominating in AEW. So I hope all the best for Jon Moxley. I love how the wrestling world, the wrestling community rallied behind him in support. Mustafa Ali tweeting out. Sarah tweeting out as well, saying it sucks. Josiah Williams, praying all my friends and former coworkers, staying positive. It's really, really rough out there. WWE really slimming down, trimming down, but this is also a result of WWE spending the better half of 5 years hoarding talent, everybody, taking names everywhere across the indies, across the globe, bringing them in, dominating over top of the indie scene, and then not being able to use half of the roster. What's amazing is that we have 3 hours of WWE Raw. And SmackDowns too. We have 5 hours plus pay-per-views. We have so much content. 3 hours alone on Raw, and you can use Keith Lee. I don't think anybody is really sitting here tonight saying that the talent is the issue here. WWE's lack of creative and foresight to be able to utilize talent effectively, I think, is their biggest problem. No one, you could use Eva Marie in some form or fashion. You could make things so much better than they are. And I think that's what frustrates so much of us, is that things could be better. They could be way better. And I think a lot of us do also look to AEW, which is not perfect, but as an alternative, shows us what can be done differently, how things could be run differently, how we can have feuds and see different superstars every single week, that ones that are in that main event scene that will always be kind of there and, really kicking ass at the very top, and then on the lower card and being able to utilize them elsewhere, and even on their smaller shows like Dark and Elevation. It's great to see them over there. So, but the problem, like AEW, is also, we can criticize AEW for a variety of things. I always wish that the production was a little bit better, a little bit tighter. Some of the storylines, I wish the women's division was done better. I think that they could showcase women a lot more and do better stories over there. That's what I would love to see. But from WWE's side, I think that this is just the whole bubble bursting of years of grabbing up all this talent and not knowing what to do with the next person that comes in. And so now they're really going through this point of wanting to build, as Nick Khan has talked about, bringing in new talent, their developmental system, NXT 2.0, utilizing them there. Speaking of which, we do want to touch on that, as Nick Khan with NXT 2.0 and the reboot, that according to, Wrestle Talk here with Sanchez Taylor, he says that the president, Nick Khan, WWE President Nick Khan, shared his thoughts on NXT following the brand's reboot in September. And during the Q3 financial results, the media call, Khan was asked how WWE feels about the progress of NXT, now focusing on developmental of younger stars. And Khan stated that NXT will continue in its current direction, pointing out that some NXT talents have already found themselves elevated to the main roster. Yes. And then you release them. The WWE president credited Triple H, and Bruce Pritchard, he's an attraction, for finding a younger and fresher in-ring approach for the brand. I'm going to talk about this Kyle O'Reilly in a second. Brandon Thurston, who does an incredible job going through all of the analytics and the data and everything regarding WWE. But yeah, just saying that Khan's happy with the way they're doing NXT 2.0 and that they wanted to be able to have this thing be that developmental system, new talents, homegrown talents from day one that they can mold, that they can utilize in their image. Don't know why you can't do that with stars like Mia Yim and Keith Lee, but I don't work at WWE. They clearly want to be able to have spectacle. They want these big stars. I just wonder too, everybody, like the way WWE uses their roster today with showcasing these big talents, amazing talents, The New Day, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. Nah, Luke, acknowledge me. Hey, GBB plays, acknowledge me. Anyways, but they have top to bottom. WWE's roster from a talent perspective has never been higher. It has never been better from pure in-ring talent. And then the talent that they had subsequently released over the last year, including these talents, it's never been fuller of amazing talents. But my wonder is, what are you going to do when those giant names at the top aren't clicking or injured, don't want to do it anymore, leave? Kevin Steen to AEW in February, please. Sami Zayn as well, please. What happens when you have so much of your current roster who you really like showcase on a daily basis on your television product? What happens when they're not around? I know that WWE is trying to build for the future with NXT 2.0. Right now, I'm not seeing it, but how many of us saw Shelton Benjamin, Batista, these guys when they were in original OVW being developed? Maybe, maybe not. So what do we know? We don't know until we see it, and we're living it. But what happens when those top talents are not there and you have not done enough to build more talent on your roster, build them up strong to take those spots when you kind of need to? Like, what happens when what happens if Roman Reigns would ever be sidelined with an injury? Your biggest star in the company, the one you showcase the most, what if he's not available for whatever reason? What are you going to do? You haven't built up enough of your talent to get to that level. And unfortunately, you also release talent like Adam Cole, or maybe even Kevin Owens, or others, and they're not going to be in a spot where they're going to be these big WrestleMania headlining stars. They have a couple right now, but they're not around forever. And I just feel like it's a standard WWE issue where we have a core crop of talent that we can utilize today that are at the top of the mountain. That's fantastic. People love seeing them, but it can get to a point where it's oversaturated and we don't want to see them on our screens anymore. And fans turn away even more because we're not seeing anything new and anything different. And it's almost that game of like, well, hold on, in 5 years, we'll change it up. We'll have more. We'll talk about more down the road. And we don't get there because we don't get to see those starts because they do roll up wins on Raw in 2-minute matches. Kyle O'Reilly, sorry, that's my rant. Kyle O'Reilly, WWE contract expiring soon. Here's another name from NXT that has been floating in NXT 2.0. Please leave and go with Bobby Fish and run shot in the tag division. PW Insider, NXT is reporting this. NXT star Kyle O'Reilly's WWE contract is reportedly slated to expire next month. O'Reilly is currently listed internally as the number 2 babyface of the NXT brand behind NXT champion Tommaso Ciampa and the former Undisputed Era member in WWE in 2017, and went on to hold the NXT tag team champions 3 times. O'Reilly is a former Dusty Rhodes Classic Tag Team Classic winner. He worked alongside Adam Cole, obviously, Undisputed Era. He won the NXT Year-End Award for the tag titles. And then he won the title bout to take over, fighting Finn Balor. Since the NXT reboot in mid-September, O'Reilly has won 2 matches. He's currently aligned with Von Wagner, who is expected to have a bright future in WWE. Good for Wagner. O'Reilly could re-sign with WWE before his contract expires, but if he lets it run out, he'd be a very valuable. He'd be a very valuably free agent. That's a typo. Valuable free agent. O'Reilly isn't the only top NXT star whose contract is set to expire. Johnny Gargano's current deal is reportedly to end, everybody, December 3rd. Okay, this is where it gets interesting for me because you have big names, O'Reilly, Gargano. You got Gargano? You got Johnny Gargano out there? Let's look at that crop. This little bucket is in Matt's head. Hey, Animal Instinct, I'm talking to you. Let's hang out for a second. Talk to Matt. Look at this crop of talent we could use. Okay? We got Johnny Gargano, Kyle O'Reilly, Kevin Steen, Sami Zayn. That's 4. You know what? Take this one guy. You know who this is? It's Kevin Steen. Nick Bragg? It's Kevin Steen. Kevin Owens. And we're going to take him out of these 4. He's going to go over to AEW, Mount Rushmore Wrestling. Let's go. Get him out of there. Especially after today. AEW can't sign everybody. We can't have this feeling that AEW is going to turn around and just Tony Khan is just chucking it out, just left and right. He's doing this. That's not appropriate, Luke. That motion, can't do that on the internet. But he's just pumping them out left and right. You can't have it go to everybody. We can't expect that. However, these are big talents that are still within their prime, that can be utilized, that can be put on a big stage and push a product like an AEW, a New Japan, and Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, and move the product forward. Ring of Honor would be a very interesting one for a lot of these talents too, by the way, with Ring of Honor going through a refresh, basically shutting down, releasing everybody other contracts, and going to go hard with a new reboot in 2022. It would be very cool to see them grab some of these talents that might be available. Maybe we'll see a Kevin Steen in Ring of Honor. We see a bunch of these talents make their way over there. I would love that. Put them on the short-term contract basis with Ring of Honor, as Ring of Honor doesn't want to be able to shell out for these long-term deals. Oh, NSR Racing subscribed. Hi, thank you so much. Acknowledge me. Nah, I'm kidding. But Ring of Honor could grab huge amounts of talents. Ember Moon, Karrion Kross and Scarlet, Keith Lee. Like just basically all of these releases, but amongst others that could be coming out of Johnny Gargano's contract, even stars that are in AEW that may be on a short-term basis or do get released by AEW because it gets very talent heavy. Ring of Honor could be an amazing comeback story if they go down that path, but it depends on what they want to do with contracts, how long, what could they afford as well. My only worry about having, for example, the conversation around everyone going, well, they're just going to end up in AEW. I worry that AEW, and it's a delicate game, but AEW gets into a situation where they are too top heavy with talent. I really do have a concern that it is a very delicate balance, because so many of them could end up just on dark and elevation. You don't want that. You want these stars showcased, and they got to find their spot and their footing, and not just to pop ratings and to pop quick little matches and feuds with people. There's only so much TV time you can have. But if you, at the same token, guys, if you want to be able to build out a big brand like Corey Mitchell subscribed. Hi, Corey. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Acknowledge me. It's a joke. But if you're trying to build up AEW Rampage, a one hour product, and you don't always want to have to lean on, like, they want to build up Rampage as almost a third hour of Dynamite, really, right? Getting talents like, say, a Keith Lee on your brand and making him kind of like a household name on Rampage, and not letting Rampage feel, because some nights it feels like it, because it's taped, not always, but some of the time, where it feels like, the B show. It doesn't feel like Dynamite does. And I think that's almost a natural occurrence when it comes to the TV products, because it's the second show that they've released. It's not as long. Sometimes it's taped, but they try to do a good thing where they make them specialty 1 hour shows. Bryan Danielson's on there a lot. Keith Lee's on there, or excuse me, Keith Lee. CM Punk is on there. They're doing a lot, but I would like to see somebody like a Keith Lee, if they did get scooped up by AEW, to find a home on like Rampage a lot, because then they can get showcased a lot more. But with AEW, again, it is a fine line, and it's a fine balance of talent acquisitions, and you don't have bottomless pits of money. We're going to keep these guys forever. You want to make sure that you are leveraging the talent properly that you have at your disposal. Trav EB for $5. Thanks for all your help. Oh, no problem, buddy. You didn't have to do the super chat thing, but thank you so much. You're super awesome. That's like crazy cool. You did that. Thanks, buddy. Trav, I'm excited for your channel. I'm excited that you're going to be doing some wrestling coverage yourself, so kudos to you, my friend. I think AEW's formula overall is fine the way it is. Again, I just worry that it's going to end up being a little bit full of talent. Joseph Dunn says Nitro was 3 hours. Hogan era, brother. I miss Nitro sometimes, just for the silliness. I miss 2001, Joseph. I miss 2001 Nitro, because it was just not good. And going back and watching some of those old Nitros, woo-wee, it is not good, man. It is not good. Hassan Terrell, hi. Good to have you here on the show. Let's talk about the earnings report from WWE in just a second, and then we will come into the chat and hang out with all of you guys for a bit. We will be wrapping up the show live, but we will be staying here on the show to talk a little bit further with all of you. If you can, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell if you can. There's so many amazing people in here. I got 92 people hanging out in the chat talking wrestling tonight, and that's awesome. It's fun to be able to hang out. Trav, stop it. With your $5, Trav says, sent you a mucho important email. Ooh, I do enjoy it. Mucho gracias, sir. I do enjoy the good emails. So I will take a look tonight or tomorrow for you, my friend. No worries. Luke says, acknowledge your tribal chief. Acknowledge me, Luke. It's fine. But thank you guys so much for being here. I sincerely enjoy the fact that we get to hang out, talk wrestling when it's even the bad news, but we all get to do it together. We get to hang out with the Assemble community. If you guys are new here and you're like, well, why do I want to hang out with this schmuck, this weirdo with all the toys? Number one is toys. Number two, tons of wrestling content we do here. WWE, AEW, having conversations like this when we do live stream, and we've been increasing our live streams to basically every single day, especially when important news like this drops. I want to be able to come out here with all of you. And frankly, the Assemble community that we've been growing is a positive one. We hang out. I got no time for weirdos, and I got no time for shenanigans. So I love the community that is in here. I love that people come in here and be able to share their opinion. Even in the comments of our videos, I have to be very honest. You guys are awesome, because the comments within our the whole show. Typically very positive, constructive, and that's what I appreciate too. So I do my best as well, as much as I can, to respond to all of your comments, even if it's a thumbs up and a heart. Guys, I actually read like everything. So whatever you're posting, I really appreciate it, but I love that the community is positive, constructive, and loves to hang out and talk a little bit of wrestling. So let's wrap up the show with a little bit of the financials for WWE, like we talked about just regarding this. I wanted to go on to the commenting on the financial results. CEO Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Oh yeah, that's good shit. You think he went to Keith Lee and said, you're Bearcatlee now? And Keith Lee's like, all right, but why? And Vince says, it's just good shit. Ah, it's awesome. This is who you are. Yeah, you're a Bearcat. You're a big effing Bearcat. Lee's like, I don't understand why I'm this. I thought I was fine. No, you're giant. You're a big old Bearcat. I just figure that's what Vince wants to do. But he's more gravelly than that. During the third quarter, it's come from Russell Talk. During the third quarter, we returned to live event touring with record average attendance, driving our better than expected performance. And this is quoted by Vince McMahon talking, even with the only one large scale international event, Crown Jewel. No. Goldberg. No. Goldberg didn't get released, did he? Due to COVID-19 related circumstances, we will exceed our previous financial guidance given the overall strength in each of our business lines. We think our performance highlights the strength of our brand globally and supports our belief that we are all well positioned to maximize the value of our content and drive long-term shareholder value. All comparisons are versus the prior year unless stated otherwise. Here's the third quarter 2021 highlights for the press release itself. They returned to live event touring beginning on July 16th due to the pandemic. SummerSlam, sold out crowd, 51,000 fans at SummerSlam. Watched as it was the most watched SummerSlam in the company's history, which is actually pretty cool. This event also got set the record for sponsorship and grew merchandise sales by 155% compared to 2019 SummerSlam. That's interesting that their merch is going up. I said Tony Khan. Nick Khan mentioned how he really wanted to do Dan, it's member pick. Vince going up to Bearcatlee. I remember I saw this cartoon. Hey, Lee, I saw this cartoon. A bunch of cartoon kids called, they were at a park and it was in the South. And I got this idea. There's a man and a bear and a pig. And I thought, Bearcat, man, bear, pig, you're Bearcatlee. It's awesome. The 155% compared with the 2019 SummerSlam. Nick Khan mentioned this in an interview, a few months ago, talking about how they want to kind of localize the merchandise. They want a big push on merchandise going forward, even bigger than before. And one of the things was being able to merchandise towards a specific city that they're in, the event itself, really trying to hit home for the instant merch sales that are there at the events live. So if you are in Long Island, getting a Long Island Becky Lynch shirt that's going to be there, so people feel like it's a little bit tighter. It's a little bit more close to home. So I wonder how much that type of thing is playing into this. I mean, kudos to WWE for increasing their revenue even more. It's insane. It's funny how they have the biggest record in revenue and attendance and profits here. But Johnny Ace is saying that we can't hold talents like Keith Lee due to budget cuts. It's interesting. Digital video views were a record $12.8 billion as an increase of 39%, and hours consumed were a record 411 million, which is a 20% increase across all digital and social platforms. Okay, that number though, the way I read that's an interesting, because my first gut reaction was like, really? The network is pulling that in? It's not. WWE's YouTube channel is a staggering number of subscribers, viewers, etc. Their social media, their Twitters, their posts, they do so much on social media and on YouTube for their clips that frankly, guys like me, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of you in the chat as well. I go on, I do not have 3 hours. Like, Luke? Yeah. Trav? I ain't got 3 hours for Raw. So, and I don't think many people do. So I end up having to catch the highlights, or I'll go on YouTube and watch condensed versions and like the highlighted matches and moments, because that's all they really want you to focus on. And I can see where this number is coming into play, where they're seeing huge increases, 20% increase across all digital and social media platforms, because their Twitter's like, they tweet the finishes to matches on Twitter. WWE, again, whether we like it or not, is this juggernaut of marketing and branding, and people don't even have to watch Raw anymore. And I think because they have a locked-in TV deal with the networks, that they don't give a shit about how their product is to a degree, that they're fine with it as long as their shareholders are fine and the networks are fine. They will push and promote even more on YouTube and Twitter because they get huge revenue and AdSense out of all that too. Like, so good on them for all of that, but it's a messy thing with WWE. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to wrap up here on the show, and we will stick around with all of you afterwards if you want to hang out, and we'll chit-chat a little bit more. But thank you so much for being here live, or as you're watching this on demand here at youtube.com/assemble show. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, notification bell, all that good stuff. You can also become channel members, get priority in chat sequence, all of that good stuff. Hang out here for a little bit longer. We'll stay on, and we'll talk a little bit more about all of this and what we think about what's going on with WWE, AEW, and more. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, thank you all for assembling with us. We'll see you on the next episode.